Okay, so I hope you are clear with how to create an objects and how to create a class. Just we'll go through some samples. So if you see here, this is just forget about these two files. We look into this is my parent class 1.h 1.m. We created a parent class with private data members and package data members and one method. So let's assume parent is having some physical status and there will be some color and with height. So there is an implementation for the parent IQ. Let's assume parent is having one IQ. So that is different from the child and the grandchild as well. So I created another class, the name child, which inherits the parent class. This is similar. First, we have to import a file which you would like to link to another any files. Or if you want to access any files from another files, first we have to import those files on top of the header. So here parent is a super, child is subclass. We created a new instance for the child. So here we have not mentioned any access specifier. By default, if there is no access specifier, so it belongs to protected. It means this data member can be accessed in the relation of inheritance from same relation. It's like we can access the any subclasses of child can access the weight property. So there is a action for the child is education. So let assume child is having some education. So it can be the something like either graduation or post graduation, but be it's independent to it can be varied from parent to child. So it's like individual strength. So let's assume there is some education. I created another class that is grandchild. So here we can see this is the single level, this is the second level, and this is the third level. We can see there are multi-level inheritance was there. So multi-level inheritance just we created, and let's say the grandchild having some hair color. So there is, for example, so now we have to see how it works if you run the same application. So I imported the grandchild file, and instead of a main method, we created object for grandchild. So ns log is similar to printf. So yesterday we have seen printf. So the ns log is different. because ns log is related to, if you see any class starts with ns, it's related to objective C. I said yesterday ns means next step. Log means it's like a log method where you can type something you can see in your console. It's similar to printf in C. So here I've already yesterday explained what's the use of printf for ns log. So objective-C is top of C language. I said you can code C and you can code objective-C. That's either or, that's your wish. You can use printf or else you can use nslog. The both will do the same functionality. If there are any data members which existed in any of the class, if those are public, if you would like to access from out of it, so I said all public data members are accessed, can be accessed, or it will be accessed within a package or outside of the package. The classes within a package which are non-inherited can access the public data members. As I said yesterday, the public data members are public to available for all the classes in an application. So if you would like to access any public data member, you have to use arrow. So this you can this is the way you can access a public data members. I would like to call an instance method, so I created an instance. So I called instance method iq. Iq was really not declared or defined in grandchild, so it's a future iq. Okay, sorry. Yeah, if you can see there is an iq method in grandchild. So here we have one iq, and in parent we have one iq. So here if you see, just I'm overridden one method, still I'm calling in another method like a super. If you can see, there are the two functionalities which can be executed. There are two implementations, one implementation from the super and one implementation for itself. So you can able to access a super class iq which defined in parent from the grandchild. It's like from subclasses. So there is a method education, there is a method behavior. So you can inherit certain features from the super classes. Like an education is not defined for grandchild, but here if you see in the grandchild, it's better to create an education in a meaningful manner. Just give education here, make a behavior. Because there are certain features you can get easily. Let's say here you can observe, you can able to access the data members from its super classes. So in the parent class, the color and height are in package mode. We can access. If you would like to access any data member which is defined as a private, if you would like to access in subclasses, you cannot do it. Super dot data. So here you cannot access any private data members. Private data members are cannot be accessed. as we discussed. If you see that if there are any duplicate, then it will give you error saying that it's already. If there are any properties which defined in its superclasses, if you declare again, then you will get a error. So this is the way, it's like a small example where you can easily understand. So what data members can be accessed if those are inheritance. If the classes are an inheritance, what can be accessed, what cannot be accessed. Yesterday I explained. Today we can see the small example. So all package data members can be accessed. The private data members cannot be accessed. If there is any data which is defined as a protected, if you would like to access, then you can access. This is a protected data I would like to access in my child, so you can able to access it. This is the way you can define any of the relation between a classes. So here the only one feature is like we can override the methods if you want. The similar like object oriented procedures, and objective-C doesn't support any multiple inheritance. So here there is no syntactical notation, or so that we will discuss what is at the rate. We can discuss in the next class, or before, or else in within this session. So here there is no feature from the objective-C, or there is no syntactical notation for an objective-C to inherit a features from more than one class to subclass. So at a time we can inherit the features directly from one superclass. Indirectly it can be inherited from any number of classes, but directly you cannot access features from two classes at a time. So here we can see this is the direct inheritance from NS object. Here this is a direct inheritance from parent and indirectly inherited from NS object. So similarly we cannot add anything here. So you cannot add like you cannot write any NS object. There is no syntactical notation, something like where you can add class by class with separator. So so the basic difference for a multiple inheritance, so this is like a known factor why the multiple inheritance is doesn't supported by the classes, because the classes have its own implementations. So if you define a single or same feature in different classes, if you would like to create a new class, then there is a confusion to which action needs to be inherited in subclass. So because the methods will have a implementations. So due to this method implementations in the class, when you inherit more than one class, so if there is any method is existed in both of the classes, then it is difficult for the compiler to decide which implementation needs to be copied. So this scenario will call as like a one ambiguity situation when we do multiple inheritance for with different classes. So there is a one option, the objective C has given a one opportunity, like, or else it's given one option with protocols. There is a protocol concept in objective C. It provides the different behavior to support the multiple inheritance. So we can do the multiple classes, or the multiple class, if you would like to do some functionality from multiple sources to create another source, then there is a concept called protocol. So the classes is having implementations, so that we are not able to do. If there is no implementation, then we can do that. Simply they deleted the implementation, they given access to the child to do its own implementation by accessing the action declarations from the parents. So that concept will be fulfilled with the protocols. See a protocol. Here we have seen earlier, so what can be the declaration? This is the way of declaring a protocol. The protocols never have any implementations, so it doesn't have any implementation file. So it have only one declaration file, so .h, one header file. If you want to create a protocol, just go to file and go to new and select a file. You can see one header file, or else to go with the other classes. Is there anything which you can do? Go with .h file, select, or either you can create a .h file, or else you can see there is a different option through which you can create directly a protocol. Okay. So if you want to create a protocol, so this is the syntactical implementation for the protocol. Yes, it's similar like your abstract class in Java. So the super protocol for all the protocols is NS object again. Its NS object is a class and protocol which is defined. So this is your protocol. Here you can declare the methods. There is no option to define any of the data members. In the protocols, you cannot declare any of the data members. You can create a methods, just method declarations. So here we can see the method declaration is display. So the protocols will have two kinds of methods. One is required methods, one is optional methods. The methods which you declare under optional directive, it becomes like a optional. So if there is any class, if it inherits the protocol, the methods which are optional, the subclass no need to give any implementation for those methods. It is optional. Either it can implement it, or it may implement, or it may not implement. But if the method is defined as a required, if there is no optional directive, so now the display method in protocol test is required method. If at all, if any other class inherits this protocol test, then the class should implement this method, because now it is in required mode. You can specify the required with a keyword required, or else if you would like to make a method as optional, you mandatory to give optional directive. So otherwise it treated as like a required method. So I declared one protocol, so I created another class like some other person. So I would like to access the protocol, I would like to give some inheritance from the protocol. So this is one class and this is another protocol. Here you can get an implementation from a class, you can get some declarations from another protocol. So you can able to do something from more than one instances. It's like some person is a class, here the protocol test is the second class. If I would like to access some features, because the protocol test is having one method is called display, so that is optional. If you would like to implement, you can give a different implementations. So since the protocol is not having a implementation, there is no ambiguity for the compiler, so that we can able to do this feature. So one protocol can inherit any number of protocols. So one class can inherit any number of protocols as well. So protocol is very simple. It doesn't have any implementation. That is the first one. The second, protocol always having a method declarations. So if there are more than one protocol, if one class is accessing or inheriting more than one protocol, if there is any method declarations are same in any of the protocols, even if it is same, the child won't get any ambiguity when it implements in itself. So because the implementation will exist at only one place, so declaration can be placed at anywhere. But if the implementation is at only one place, then the compiler will be very clear which implementation needs to be compiled. So just because of this reason, the classes have not been used for multiple inheritance. So we used protocols to achieve that. So because we don't give any implementation for methods in protocol, we'll do the implementation at its subclasses. The protocol syntax, as I explained, the keyword protocol followed by the protocol name by inheriting the super protocol. The protocols always be denoted in between the anchor tags. So there are two kinds of methods in protocol. One is optional, one is required. If a method is declared under a protocol directive, under a directive optional, then the method is optional. Means if any class is inherits this protocol, it is optional for that class whether to implement it or not. There is no mandatory to implement the method which is defined in the protocol. If the method is required in protocol, if there is any class inherits that protocol, the class should implement those methods. So this is the basic difference for an optional methods and required methods. By default, all protocol methods are required methods. So since there is no implementation for a protocol, you cannot create any object for the protocols. So we are implementing the protocol methods in the classes. If you would like to execute those methods, you have to call those methods with the same object of the class. Now if you see here, the other class is implemented a method called display, but this method is declared in protocol. Now the other person class can give different implementation for this method. Here we can see there is a some person class, there is a other person class. Here there is no declaration in .h, still we are able to do. Parent some person display. Since this is a protocol method and still it is an optional, so if this is a mandatory or required, if you have not implemented this method, you will get a warning. It's giving a warning by saying that method financial status in protocol of protocol test is not implemented. So if there is any required method in the protocol while you do the inheritance, it's our responsibility to make sure to implement those methods. It's declared in protocol, implemented in subclass. If you have a knowledge with Java, then you can easily compare the features. The object-oriented features are similar, only we feel the difference of syntactical notation, but are still like the same. If you want to execute any of those methods, this is the common. You have to create an object since there are different methods with the description has been defined. There is a display, you can use it. No known class method for selector. So like even this is a protocol method, but we can call with the same like an instance method of the class because it is inherited. The only difference, we give just declarations, we'll do the implementation in subclasses by eliminating the duplication of implementations. So one protocol can be inherited from any number of protocols, or one class can inherit any number of protocols at a time. Here you might have seen that in protocol and implemented in subclass. Here we can see this. There is a different procedure where you can define something in a protocols. It is inherited. There are different kinds of protocols, informal protocols and formal protocols. So we call these are like an informal protocols. There are the formal protocols, we call it like a categories. So let's assume we have a class. I would like to create one a category. So okay, we have seen here it's there is a inheritance procedure. Now we'll see the concept of category. In inheritance, if there is a some future is defined in its superclass, that future can be accessed by its own subclasses. If you were like to give one future, yes, we use protocols instead. It's like same as in other every object oriented languages will face the same issue, but that will give some different solution for that. Here in objective-C we have protocols. So the inheritance we can see there is two differences, like the inheritance is be preferred if you have some relative implementation, or if there is a relative functionality which you would like to use from the super classes, or if you would like to reuse some functionality which is implemented in any of its super classes. So then we can go for the inheritance. If there is a one class, it is existed in any of the predefined frameworks, you would like to extend some features for that class. So in such scenarios we can create a category. So there is another concept called categories. So you can create a category in order to, let's say, watch. Before we go for categories, okay, okay. Let's say I have one class. Let me create one class. Test. And I added both the targets. This is my test class. Added some methods. Now I would like to create one formal protocol for this to give a different behavior. If I want to access this method, so I can create another subclass and I can access this. And if I would like to access something, so this feature can be reused in its subclasses. So if it is an inheritance, so there is another concept called like categories, where we give an alternative for inheritance. Create something test. I have some. You can create a one class. Here the plus indicates test arithmetics. You can change that. Okay, here we have test.h. This is like a protocol. So it's a formal protocols. It's like categories. We call these are like a categories. So this is one class which is already existed. So I would like to create some more functions. I would like to extend those functionalities. So I would like to give another feature. Let's say multiply, give some values a and int b. I can do this implementation in super class return a multiplied with b. Let me do something. Now I want to use this classes at somewhere like here. Import this is where you can see there is a result of production. So if you can observe, there is a difference between inheritance and categories. The categories, when you create the category names or category files, should looks like this. What is the class, to which class you would like to create a categories. So the class name is test. I would like to add one more functionality for the class test. So I can give, I created one category, my super class with the current class, a category's name. It's like arithmetics. So your declaration should look like this. And I declared one method. So I implemented in its implementation. So whenever I want to use that, my category methods I can use wherever I use this test class, I can call this method. So here if I would like to access this method, I now need to inherit this test class anywhere. I can directly implement or import this category, then I can use this method as like a existing method of this specific class. Is there any confusion for the categories? For example, what is the basic usage of inheritance? If we can look at an inheritance usage, then we can identify what is the use of a protocol. Have you observed any difference? Is anyone from anyone have you observed any difference for a category and inheritance?
Inheritance, you inherit properties of like superclass,
Okay,
and in categories, directly you just import the file like import.h. You can and use that methods in the other file.
this is my class A. So this is like way of declaration you said. That is fine. So we'll see. This is my class B. If these two are, if class A having certain data members and methods, it's the class A is having some features. If I want to access these features directly, I can do the inheritance. If I inherit the properties, or if I inherit the class A, I can get all the features of class A in class B. If the class B is inherited by class A, then all the features which the class A is having, all non-private features can be accessed by B. If I would like to access these two features, then I have to create another subclass for B. So if I want to reuse any features in anywhere from one class, there is one possibility, that is with subclassing. If you do the subclass, then you can directly, without implementing it, you can directly reuse that implementation. So that is the basic advantage with inheritance. So if I want to reuse, then why should I do the inheritance? Is there any other alternative without doing inheritance? I would like to use one of the functionality from class A from another classes. So I no need to go for inheritance. I can create one category for it. So I created one category here. I created a category for class A. If I want to use those, the categories always have only data members, member functions. So if there is any class, if I would like to use this category or categories which defined in class A, we can directly import the category file and we can access as like a normal how you can access a data members or that member functions from one class to another class without doing inheritance. Means with the help of object we can access, or we can use those implementation. Similar way we can use the category instead of inheritance. That is the basic thing. It's we can use the same functionality throughout the application. So you can use the same functionality in any of the class. So but in inheritance, if you would like to reuse the any implementation, then we have to inherit one subclass. If you inherit it, then we can get an implementation from another class. Here without doing any inheritance, we can directly get an implementation of other methods from other classes with the help of categories. So that is the basic difference for a category and inheritance. Inheritance is related to one level of classes. So category is related to the whole application that can use the functionalities. So you can reuse it. The reusability and the reuse axis is global for categories. For inheritance, reusable axis is within the relation of those hierarchy. So the hierarchy and is public. So that is only the difference for category and inheritance, because the question category and inheritance, this question will be asked in every interview. If you go for any interview, there is only one question you will get. Then they will ask this question like, what is the basic difference for categories and inheritance? When you choose category or when you choose inheritance. So that is like the basic question. It's like a common question from objective C. So this is the way like you can define a category. So difference, as I said, if you want to reuse within a relation, go for inheritance. If you want to reuse in anywhere in the application, so you can go for a category. That's it. And we have seen two concepts now. We have seen inheritance, we have seen categories. The categories, there is no option for you to define any data members. You can define a member functions. And there is a another feature of objective C. We have seen the methods which defined in one class that can be exposed to other classes. If you create an object, this is T is my class, test is my class, I create an object T. If I want to know the methods which define, so you will get all the method names which can be accessed from other classes. So the main is one file. So I create an object for test. Now I can see that what are the object or instance methods which are available from test class. So here there is no security for the methods. You can directly get a method name of the classes. So when you give some packages or some archive files to end customer or a source, if you share a source code, if you would like to give some protection of the methods, so if you would like to provide some protection for the methods within a class, there is another feature in Objective-C is available, that is called extensions. You can extend a functionality of a class, or you can extend a class. Here there is no action extension. Here it's an extension of a class. Means you can declare the data members or you can declare a methods. Both can be possible with extensions. The way of extensions declaration, if there is a class parent, I would like to extend this class. You can directly extend any of the classes in in Objective-C. The simple way is this is my class. Extensions is like we do extending for one class. We'll do that extensions for one class. If you would like to create any extension, we should have an implementation file. If there is no implementation file, you cannot add any extensions. But whereas in category, you don't require any implementation files. Here the test class implementation is available, so it is fine. If I want to give an category for an existing classes or any library classes which you don't have a source code or which you don't have an implementation file, still you can create a category. For creating the category, if you have an access to one class, you can create a categories for that classes. But whereas in extensions, you can provide a security or private mechanism for the methods which won't be exposed outside of its class. So here I want to create one method.
Suresh,
Yeah.
yeah. For category, if we don't have any access to the that particular class, the
Yeah.
implementation file, in that case we can add our method to that.
No. If you don't have access to the implementation of file.
Okay.
So for example, here if you can see, there is ns object. Do you have access to the implementation file? Can you see the
No,
ns object.m?
no.
No, right? But still you can create a category for ns object. But you
Okay.
cannot create any extension because the extensions always be written in implementation file. If you see parent.h, I am having this parent.h file. So and I am having the parent.m file. So I would like to create some extra methods or extra class. It's nothing but extending the class. So here if you see, my declaration starts with @interface. A parent is my class name. So I defined the same class again in .m file. Just I'm keeping the brackets. This is the mandatory syntactical notation. So I'm giving that there is some name. You can define any name for your extension. So I want to give some data members. So let's say, because it's like a simple you can, so there is a different concept you can do it, defining the data members. I will tell you that. So how to declare a data members, but you can declare a data members and member functions in an extension that we can do. So here I created one method for an extension of a class parent. So as I said, this method it won't be exposed from outside of his class. If I create the parent class, I have let's see, I have one subclass. The other person is a subclass or grand subclass for parent. You can get the display. So what is the method name which I defined? It's like extension. So I have a display method. So I'm able to see the display method because the display method is defined here, and let's see, because this is for some person is having a display in a parent. Let's make it as it is. So now let's create parent is an individual class here. So I want to create one object for this. Let me create. So this is an object for parent class. Now what I'm doing, I would like to see what are the methods are available. So I want to see the methods. Is there any methods which prefixed with the So I have a method in parent class. The method is extension for parent or extension action for parent, but I was not able to see those methods since it is an instance method, but still it is not available from outside of its class. So this is the where like you can able to hide the methods even if it is implemented in the dot, even if it is having an implementation for the class, but you cannot see outside of its class. So that's where this kind of hidden feature, so hiding actions and data members within a class, if you don't want to expose to other classes, even if it is from its own objects, so then we can go for extensions. You can you can do an extension for an existing class, still those data members and member functions are in hidden mode when it is accessed from outside of its class. Is that clear? What is the basic difference for inheritance to categories, and what is the use of extensions, and what is the basic usage or difference from categories to extensions? So these are the three different concepts. In inheritance is one concept that is related to object oriented, and we have seen categories and extensions. These are the two different features of objective-C.
Suresh,
Yeah,
I'm just repeating what I understand.
yeah.
So the categories, it's alternative to the inheritance.
It's not alternative. We cannot say it's alternative. It's a different feature. The
Okay,
inheritance give one feature, so categories feature is different.
okay. So if we implement the inheritance,
Yeah.
the only child classes can access the methods of parent class.
Yes,
And
reusability we can see in within a relation.
yeah, within the relation, right?
Yeah,
And if we implement the categories,
yeah.
then the other classes means the other classes also can access that implemented category methods, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we can add extra methods
We can
to
reuse
the
those implementations even if it is from non-inherited classes.
yeah, right.
Use categories.
Yeah. And in extension, if you don't want to expose any method to the other classes, we can use extension,
It's
right?
like if you don't want to expose the methods from outside of its class, then we can go for extensions.
Okay, outside of the
Outside of
yeah,
its
right.
class. So because I'm accessing these data members from outside of its class, so with the object or with the class name. But if the methods are in extensions, then that won't be exposed. So directly you
Okay,
cannot you cannot identify that whether what method is available or not. If you see that implementation file, then you came to know like what are the methods are available. But there is no option. But still there are different
okay,
methodologies through which you can debug or you can search for what available methods are. But in one case, you can hide it temporarily. If you are the developer, then you might aware of that you have created some methods as an extension, so then that we can utilize or that we can reuse in other classes.
okay. So if we have only .h file,
Yeah,
then we can only
do
we
category.
cannot access. Uh, no, no. If we implement in any method in as an extension,
Yeah,
so if you have only .h file, so we can only view that method name, but we cannot access outside the outside.
this is very simple. The extension methods are cannot be accessed from outside of its class,
Oh,
or it
okay,
cannot be visible. It can be accessible, but it cannot be visible. That's it. You cannot view the data members or member functions which are in extensions of any class. The parent is having one extension of a method, but we are not able to see here. If I want to, even still, if you would like to know what are the methods are available in an instantiation with E, there is no method is available. So you are not able to see. But there is a one method, so which prefixed with E. So that is only the difference. Like that is the
okay,
advantage of a category, like extension.
okay, got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. So this is the basic inheritance and category and extension. You might have seen the advantage of self and super, and what is the use of self and what is the use of super. Hmm. So we have seen data types, integers and all. Let's have a collection of characters like strings. So as of now, we have seen classes and objects. Now we'll go with another concept. Is like there are two types of classes are available. We're an objective C. Okay, there are two types of classes are available. This is available in objective C. That is, sorry, not two classes of objects. Before we see that different types of objects, then we'll see the properties. So yesterday we have seen only one way of accessing the data members from one class to another class. So there are the another concept is like a properties. So this is the one of the most repeated questions in objective C will be fired with properties. This is the like a base concept and one of the best feature is defined for objective C. For example, just I explained yesterday, if you want to access any data from or data members from outside of its class, we have one feature like you have to make those data members as a public, so that you can able to access those data members from outside of its class. So you have to give some scope. The protected data members we are not able to access directly. So let's create one data member. Let's create some data members. Parent mm, value 1, value 2. I declare two variables. I want to use these two variables. I would like to access these two variables from another file with its object. Parent1 dot value. I was not able to access. We have seen in earlier classes how to access the data members of one class from its outsides. So here I can access one data member with a dot value 100. I declared two data members, one is value and the second one is value 1. So I want to access these two data members because since the value 1 as value 2 is defined in .h, I want to access outside of its class with its own object, but still it's not allowing me. So in order to access this, I made in earlier classes the data members as public. Now these are in protected mode. So now we can see one of the feature is like property. I can define a data member as a property. So I defined these two data members as a properties of the class. I am saying that those are the properties for the class. So now Now we can see, we can able to access. If we specify that these data members are properties of that class, then since it is a properties of the class, we can able to access outside. There is no restriction. If those data members are not properties of that class, then we cannot access outside of its class. We can utilize those data members in its own related inheritance, like its own subclasses. But if you want to use it in non-subclasses with its object, then those data members should be defined as a property. Here we can see the property is one feature. Now we can understand how we able to access these data members if we define these two data members as a property. So if we see, we can see now there is a new keyword like @synthesize. So we define two data members properties, and here we define the we synthesize data members. So if you see it, Java language, whenever you create any data member, that data member will be generated with two methods. One is setter and one is getter. Read and write operations will be provided to your defined data members in a Java class. Similarly here, synthesize is one of the keyword and it's one of the feature. This directive will do getter and setter methods for the properties. These two data members is now had a hidden implementation of getter and setter methods by default. If you synthesize any data member, the data member will implemented for getter and setter. Getter and setter implementations will be done at compile time if you synthesize any property. So since these two properties are having a getter and setter methods, so now we can able to access. Have you understand how to access any data members from outside of its class with objects? In previous classes we have seen if the data members are public, then we can access. For a non-public data members or even a public data members, if it is defined properties with synthesization, we can able to access from its outside of its class with object. So this is the future of a property. So when you say that this is a property, the property of one class, so the class can give certain access permissions for the property. So it can restrict its properties behavior when it is accessed from when it is accessed outside. When it accessed outside, so the property will give you some restrictions. If you have not specified any restriction, all the properties will have a setter and read and write feature. You can write a value to this data member, you can read or get a value from this data member. Now I want to get the value of value 2 and want to assign to value 1. So I can do that. Since value 2 is a getter and setter, so I can set a value, I can get a value. So this feature I can restrict. I want to make this just read only. So you cannot write any values. Now we see I got one error. So these two are read only. You cannot write any values into these locations or memory locations. So these are accessible from outside, but these are restricted for read only. So we can read the values, but we cannot write any data into this data members. So that is the one basic difference we can see. Value 1, value 2. By default, all data members are read and write. Even if you specify or if you won't specify, the data members, all properties are read and write. Now we can understand what is the usage of a property. If you want to use with its object, then this all the restrictions takes place. If you use these data members in its subclass, then there is no restriction, like you can access the way you want based on its access specifier. Now these are read write. By default, all data member properties, all properties are non-atomic and read and write. By default, even if I specify or not specify these data members or these properties, if I won't specify any attributes for a property, those properties are having a future of non-atomic and read write future if these are related to any data type or any object. So this here my data members is having a read write property and non-atomic. We have seen read write and read only. So since the names itself will give you the exact idea what is the use of it. Now we can see there is a word called non-atomic. It's one of the attribute. Non-atomic attribute is like if you define any data member as a non-atomic. So if you want to access these data member in a multi-threading, if there are multiple threads are accessing this data member at a time from outside of its class, then in such scenarios we should make sure the value should be consistent. So if you want to maintain a consistent values, it should be atomic. Sorry, as I said earlier, the by default the data members are atomic and read write. It's not non-atomic, it's an atomic and read write. So if I define a data property as atomic, if these data members are participate in multi-threading, it will make sure that value should be consistent in multi-threading process. If the properties are non-atomic, so it won't give you that guarantee the what atomic is provides. Atomic provides the value which returns to each thread. It will make sure that that will be a consistent value. So whatever the recent or latest value which is there in a setter method of that data member, that will be returned as a value for the threads in an atomic properties. If it is non-atomic property, it cannot make sure. While it is returning on setter value, if there is any other thread or giving some another value, even if then it will give you the different values. It cannot make sure that to provide a exact value which is stored in that memory location. So that is the basic difference the non-atomic and atomic is having. These two data members or these two properties are not thread safe. Atomic and non-atomic, if there is a property is defined as atomic, it gives you the consistent values. If the property is defined as a non-atomic, it will not make sure the data values are consistent in multi-threading. So that is one of the basic difference for non-atomic and atomic. By default, all data members are atomic and read write. We have seen atomic and non-atomic and read write and the usages. And read only, we have the another feature of properties. We can see that you have seen the basic level of property and synthesize. There are two more features. For property, we have two more attributes that I will explain you once we start the classes. These are related to data members, I can see. Now if I define any object inside of it, let's say I imported test. I want to create an object for test. You can create. This is my object. So here I cannot give any The read write can be provided to data variables. You can provide to variables and you can give to objects. Here I would like to assign, there is another property called strong, another property attribute called strong. Here an object to see what is the meaning of a strong, or what is the use of a property attribute strong. So if there are two classes, now I want to create the parent one dot, let's say I have a strong property t. Here property t is strongly referred to t. Here if you see, I created one object for test t1. Let's make it t1. So I created an object for test with the name of t1. I have one object named t in parent class with the property strong. If I assign another object to the strong property, then it increments the memory count. So the memory count will get incremented for strong objects, strong properties. Increments memory count by 1. If you assign one object to another strong object, then the object will create a new memory location. It creates another memory location. So if you delete,
So it's like a
yeah,
copy, right?
it's like a copy.
Yeah,
This copy
actually,
is like it
pass by
copies the new
reference
memory.
and pass by value. So, uh,
Here there is, for example, the T1 is having one memory location. The T will have another memory location. So both will have the same values. Whatever the values of T1 is having, the same values will be copied in T.
okay.
We can say that it's create a new instance. The one different copy will be created. The only change, for example, if you do some modification of the data members with the T1, the same modification will get reflected in T, even if these two are two different memory locations. Here we can see the one object is defined in test. This is one object. Since it is strongly referenced, it allocates a new memory location. If there is something was happened in this class A or object T, that will be reflected in object T1. So vice versa, because these two are strongly referred. So if some change is happened, then here we can see that change. If something is happened at here, then here we can see. So that's the basic thing of strong. We'll get two references. So when we do the deallocation, so we should make sure that all the strong references should be disconnected. The variables, these two variables are in strongly referred. So the reference, it's like we can say the reference is strongly referred. It's not a weak reference, it's a strong reference. These both are dependent. If something is happened here, that will be reflected here. If something is happened here, that will be reflected here, because it's having a strong relation. So I saw something. This class T is strongly referred to A. Let's see that. We'll see, confirm that. And there is another property called copy. There are another property like T copy. So if I want to assign on copy, then it's given a new memory allocation. The memory allocation will be incremented T copy and T1. So there is one new copy. The T copy is allocated one new memory location which stores the data which is there in the T1. But if there is another change is happened for any value of the T1 object, that won't be reflected to T copy. And this copied object will be used for read. So it's like if you take one it's a copy in the sense whatever it is there before doing the copy. So for example, the T1 is having some certain values, so those values will be copied to T copy object. So later if I do some changes of any properties of T1, if I have something like if I do some any change of any data member, so I don't have, so if I do any something change, for 121, if I do this, so it cannot return that value. Let's see how it works, whether it supports the copy or not. What else we have to do? Now it's terminated. Just copy with John. So since it is so here it's like copied that 121. Let's see what it returns. No, it's got that parent1.t copy value is 121 because I returned it. Here I'm returned that self, so it is being that same as it is. Something comes, it's return the self. Self beyond that value sample the tree. The capital. Okay, I will tell you that copy, how exactly it's required. So this implementation I have to change. So say as I said, there is a strong reference for that T1. Let's say the T dot value 3. Let's some 1212 something was this retains some value 2121 something. It's return some value 1212. For example, changing the value to triple to whether is it one is strongly referred or other is strongly referred. So 121 and triple two. Have you seen the difference? Have you seen the difference here? Like what we said, these two are strongly referred. If you can observe here, this is strong. The property for T object T in parent 1 in parent is strong. So this is the memory object of T1 I assign directly. Then it creates one memory location separately and it's have a strong relation with these two. Later I have one value change of a property of T1 object. So I'm displaying the parent one. It's get reflected. I got 121. So later I changed the value of a memory location which is stored in T. Now I am displaying the value of object T1. So it's given the same value which is reflected in the previous strong object. The same value is represented by the same object. As I said, these two objects T and T1 are strongly connected. T and T1 is strongly connected. If something change at here, it will reflect here. If I do some change at here, it will reflect here. In copy, I will tell you that there will be some small difference in the implementation. But the basic difference for a copy is, so if there is some value in T1, whenever I do the copy, whatever the available instances or memory changes or value changes are there, the same changes will be reflected to copy. But if I do later, if I do any changes, then it won't be reflected. So if this object is copy, right now this is a copy. So later if I do some change in object T1, if I display that, the copied object won't give the latest value change which is happened in this memory location, because the copy will be copied whatever is available and that same at that time. So for example, when your interpreter is doing that interpretation for this statement, whatever the memory or value changes are available in this object, that will be copied. If you do any other changes and after the statement, that won't be reflected to the copied object. And the copied object will be used only for read only, then we cannot use for write only. So write, it's like for to read the values, but we cannot use it to assign the values. I will tell you that there is a small difference in implementation of a copy that will give you that how exactly needs to be implemented. But that is the basic difference. You might have observed what is the basic difference and usage of strong. So, and this is about like properties. Strong we have seen, atomic and non-atomic. Is it clear with the strong and copy? I will tell you that copy implementation, and for most probably by the in next class. Have you understand the strong object?
Yes.
Okay.
In case of strong, the increment memory count increased by 1.
Yes.
So what is in case of copy. So
Copy,
it will
like it will be incremented. The memory count will be incremented.
okay. And in case of strong, uh, first we assign t is equal to t1,
Yeah.
and again if we assign
No, no, it's
t1 is equal to
simple change.
t2.
For example, this object is giving another copy to T.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that.
If something is
If
happening
t1 is
here,
assigned to t2,
it's like
then
mutual
it will
change.
sorry.
It's like a mutual change. For example, if one object
Yeah,
changes the value, that
I
will
got
occur.
that.
Yeah,
I have one more question related
yeah,
to strong.
yeah.
Uh, T1 is equal to T is equal to T1, so it will create another copy. And
Okay,
if we assign one more object, like T1 is equal to T2
okay,
or something, so it will create a copy of T1.
okay. Here now the T is strongly connected to T1. Okay,
Yeah. Now, if we create a parent, if there is any third object or anything,
okay. Parent to something
T2,
like that. Okay,
yeah. So parent1 dot T is equal to T2.
okay.
So it will again increment the count by 1. And if we change
You're saying
T,
that you want to create a, you want to assign another object.
yeah,
Or you want to see there is a T1.
yeah,
This is what you are
T2,
expecting.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
This is
So
one
all the
object.
three objects have a same value right now, right?
Let's see. Let's assume we learn it. So then, oh, what is the next your question?
Yeah, so all the three objects have the same value. If we
Okay.
change T1, then it will reflect in T and T2, right?
Because here it see T is having one copy. So okay, this is having one memory location strongly connected to T1.
Okay,
Later, again you connected another object to T.
right.
Since it is strongly connected to T1, again you are connecting to T2. Hmm, let's see. If I do that value change in T2, if I do that value change in T, let's say there is some value change in T1. There is some value change in parent dot T since it is connected to strongly for T1. The same T object is connected to T2. This is my memory location. T1 dot value processed with 1 to 1 because 1 to 1 is assigned for T1. So since the T is connected to T1, so sorry, okay, T1 value is same as it is, or T dot value 3 is 222. T1 dot value 3 is 121. So it is giving my T1 dot value 3 is the latest value. Now I am displaying T2 dot value 3. So it's displayed T2 dot value 3 is 222
220.
because since the T dot value 3 was changed. So if it is changed, if it reflects to the T1, then it should be the value is 222. It should not be 121,
Yeah,
right?
but
Because
here it,
when it is the strongly objects, it's do only one to one connection. Since the T is strongly referred to T1, If something change has happened at T1, it should reflect in T. If some change has happened in parent, it reflected to test. Here, what we did here, just we giving another object creation. We create another object. We are giving the reference to this object. So then there is a potential leak here. Here we had our memory instance. So later we are changing this memory reference to another memory allocation. So which are strongly connected. T and T2 is strongly connected.
Okay.
So I did one value change in T1. So if I print my T dot value 3, so sorry, what happened?
It print 0, I
Wait,
think.
wait. It's prints. Yeah, it's given a value which is there in T2. So it's lost the connection between the T1 and T. So the strongly object is here, like if there are two objects which are in strong relation will be maintained between between objects. So, so it lost the previous reference, like previously these two are in strongly relation. So when you given
Okay.
another object for a strong relation, then it's lost this relation. So now the T
Okay.
is
So
related
right
to
now T and T2 are
T2 are
in strongly
whatever the
are
latest
strong.
object which you assign, so that will refers to the same. The previous one it will last.
Okay. Okay.
It will give you the potential leak because since it is created a new memory location, so after you assign the T2, we are not sure where is the reallocation of this memory. So you
Yeah.
allocated
Yeah.
here, there is no reallocation. It's like a potential leak. Okay, but I hope
Okay.
your
So
doubt
at
has
a
been
time,
right.
only two objects
No,
can
no, you can
strongly
do that,
connect,
but the
right?
only thing, the what will be the result is in strongly related objects. There are two objects which are strongly related. Always it will be two. It's not more than, like, you cannot make some association. You can do
Okay.
one to one. It cannot be like one to many or many to many.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
So the strong related objects, there is one option. If I delete the memory for this, if it is still available for this, then these two memory allocations won't be deallocated. If the relation is broken for both, then it will get deallocated. If I delete this memory, if I have not deleted this one, then it won't be deallocated. The both will live in the memory. If I delete both of the memories, then these two objects will go for deallocation. We have to make sure that relation needs to be removed. In copy case, I will tell you that the copy case, the behavior is like as I said, if you do any other changes after copying the object, that won't reflect in the previous one. And there is another feature called weak relation. So weak relation and strong relation. Weak relation is work like a reference to one memory location. If these two are in weakly related, these are strongly related, so these connections are having different locations. If there is a one reference which you are referring in a weak relation, if I want to give a weak relation, this will be something. There is some object which refers directly to the same memory location. This is my object. Don't assume that this is a memory location. This is my object which refers to this memory location of T1 if it is weak relation. Whenever it's a weak relation, the weak related objects get deallocated whenever one object is deallocated. For example, this property is having a weak relation. Property is weak. This is weak. Now, this weak object is referring to this object. If this object is deallocated, automatically this object will get deallocated. If this is not there in the memory, then this won't be there. In this relation, If I delete this, if it is there, then this still be on online. For my T1 object is like a test, for example. This is having a different memory location. This is having a different memory location. For example, this object is not deallocated. So I want to delete this. If I delete this, if it is there in the memory location, then this won't be deleted. If these two are deallocated, then if these two are memory locations are empty, then this will get disconnected. In this case, if my weak object still in the memory, but if I deleted the another object is like a strong object, then this will get deallocated. The weak properties, they want to maintain strong references. Here T is strongly referred. If I want to deallocate this one, for example, if I want to release this T1, if the T is there in the memory, then this won't be deallocated because these two are strongly connected. This is already there in the memory location. If my T is a weakly referred object, if this is a weakly referred, if I release this memory location for parent 1, if this is weakly referred, then there is no issue, it will get deallocated. Since it is a strongly referenced, if I delete the parent 1, if the T1 is still in, T2 is still in live memory, then this object won't be deleted because it is saying that there is a one relation is already running in the memory, so I cannot delete that object. If I delete this, then it will get deleted. I deleted this, still the T2 is in the memory, so this memory will be maintained in background. Whenever this object is got deallocated, then this will get deallocated. So strongly objects, if you want to make a deallocation, all strongly objects are needs to be deallocated. So if any one of the reference is still in the memory, then it won't allow the other strongly objects to get deallocated. In weak relation, if there is a property, if this property is weak, then if I delete this super one, like if I delete the test 2, for example, the T1, whatever it is. So if this is weakly referred, then there is no issue. If I delete this memory location, it will get deleted. Nothing will happen. Instead of strong, I can maintain is like a weak. So weakly reference objects allows the deallocation, and strongly referred objects allows the deallocation if all the strong objects got deallocated, then it will go for deallocation. If any one strong object is still in the memory, then it won't allow the other objects for deallocation. The weakly referred objects will get deallocated whenever the super object is get deallocated. If the assigned object is deallocated, even if that strong object alive in the memory, then there is no issue, it will get deallocated.
So in case of weak, the reference count will be the same. It will not
It's
increment,
like
right?
SN. It's like SN. It won't increment. It's like weakly referred.
Okay.
It won't be incremented. Memory won't be incremented for weak objects. Weak for strong, the memory get incremented. So this is like a mandatory question. Properties, without any question on properties, no one will close your interview. Your interview will have a mandatory tricky questions on these properties. They will ask you more number of confusing questions on these properties. So this is like one of the best concept and base concept of objective-C. Now we have seen properties. I said like synthesize, it's a compile time feature where it can gives you the setter and getter methods for any of the data member which is inside. You'll have getter and setter method for this inbuilt. If you do the synthesize, your compiler will make sure that there are the two methods is created. One is for setting the values, one is for getting the values from that data member. Now we have the another classes is like a wrapper classes. Before to going, okay. So we have seen a data members. Now we have seen, like for example, we have seen different data types: integer and double and float and all. Those are all data types which is there in the C language. We are using an Objective-C. So Objective-C is related to like basic object oriented. So we have an object to object communication. It's not fully object oriented, but it's having some object oriented features. So if you want to make some integer data communication between the objects, so then there is a different classes supports that is called wrapper classes. If you want to make sure that if you want to convert your data types into an objects, so you can wrap any data type value as an object with the help of wrapper classes. So here we have two classes. One is ns number, one is ns value. How we see the ns object classes? Similarly, we have an ns number class and one ns value class. These two classes are called as wrapper classes. The wrapper classes are used to convert a data type to object. I want to convert one integer data type to object, so I can use the ns number. So ns number, there is a method called number with int. It's a class method. If I pass any integer value as an argument, this integer value will be wrapped into another object that is called ns number object. So similarly, I can do any data type conversion to number object, like integer or character or bool or long or float or double. Here we see the method name is number with int. In that case, if it is float, number with float. If it is char, number with char. If it is double, number with double. If I want to retrieve the value from the wrapper class, so whatever the object you can you can use the same object of the ns number. If it is integer value is wrapped, then we use the int value. If it is float value is wrapped, we can use the float value. So every one data type or every one variable will have one object. So one variable is converted to one object. If int converted to ns number int object, or a float converted to another ns number object. So similarly like that. So this we will use in a scenario where you upload some data to server. So you cannot upload any data type values directly. You need only object communication. So in such scenarios, we'll use the ns number. As I said, the wrapper classes. I created one class, wrapper class.h. So this is one method, helper method. This is my number. I want to convert this integer data into one object. So I can use ns number. Ns number is one of the class is available. I can convert all number or character data or double or float any data type value into one proper object, and we can retrieve the same value from the same object. If I see the float, I created float num. With int, I created int num. With char, I created char num. So I am retrieving those values. Again, I am retrieving that. Now it's again having 20. The float num is having 12.5. Since it's already having 12.5, so let me change it so that we can understand whether are we getting the same proper value from it or not. So I've changed those values after assigning to the number object. Let's see, are we getting the same value which is there in that specific wrapper class or not. Now the old values are there in the objects. So the current value in number is 22, but the previous value 20 is stored in that wrapper class. Now you can get the 20. Similarly, the fnum is having 22 and character is B. So now it changed. Now you see that 20, 12 and A. Whatever it is there in the wrapper, so we are getting that. So ns number is used to do your data type values into objects, proper class objects. So similarly, we have the different graphical points, graphical objects.
Uh,
Yeah,
Suresh,
graphical data. Yeah.
what is the use of this conversion?
So
Means
for
why we
example, so you cannot send directly data type values to, if you want to pass one data type value to your server, so how can you pass it? We cannot pass, right? You want to send
so
integer value to server, so how can you send an integer value to server?
okay, so we cannot send integer value to server.
Can
That's
you
why
download?
we
Can you download any data type values directly from the server? The server
uh,
do only object-object communication. There is no data type communication. So it's mandatory for you to convert all data type values into a proper objects. So it
okay,
maintains the same memory allocations or the same the sizes of the data values of the specific data type. These wrapper classes will take care of it. So without any
okay,
changes. Okay.
okay. Thanks.
So the similar like a data types in this is since it is an iOS SDK based graphical elements. So we have a another values like points and sizes. When we represent some graphical objects on the screen, so we have to define what is the points. I explained you in the first class or second class. I given a chart of 4s, 5s, 6s, and 6 plus. What is the points and dimension of an iPhone? So we are representing the devices in height and width. If you create any button with a specific size, then we will specify that the button needs to be started at origin or it's to be started at which point. So for do that, there is a structures called points. There is a structure called size. They are the C language structures. So I want to convert these structures into a proper objects. I use the ns value. To convert data types as a proper objects, I use ns number. To wrap my structures into a proper objects, I use ns values. So I can get the same, the value with CG point. These are the certain methods. If I want to retrieve, then if it is point, then retrieve with point value. If it is size, you can retrieve with size value. We can learn more about this one later classes. So this is the usage of wrapper classes. And before going to these classes, so we have seen wrapper classes and we have seen data types. Now let's start with the strings. So after that we can close the session. So in character data in C language we use the char. If you want to use the string data, we'll use the character pointers or string. Similarly, in Objective-C we have a classes called NSString. So in Objective-C there are two types of objects are available. One is mutable objects, one is immutable objects. This is also be a repeated question in any one of the interview. What is mutable and what is immutable? Mutable and immutable. So mutable objects allows data change in memory and extends its existing memory reallocations. So these two are not possible with immutable objects. Memory cannot allows data change in memory after initialization, and it won't do the reallocations after initialization. So cannot allow data change in memory and cannot extend its existing memory reallocations after initialization. So whereas in mutable it allows both. We can do the data changes after initialization of a memory and we can do some reallocations. These both are possible. So this is one of the difference for mutable objects and immutable objects. Mutable objects allows the modifications within a same memory. It allows the value changes, and still if you want to add a new memory locations you can do it. If it is immutable, this is the same behavior as like your other Java. The Java is having the same, it is also be the same. There is no specific difference related to objects. The both are the same. Immutable and mutable. Here also we have two objects. One is mutable objects and immutable objects. Now let's see the collection of characters representation in Objective-C. There is NSString. This is the class. So this is immutable class. This is immutable class. The basic feature of immutable class is we can do the value assignment when it is initialized. After initialization we cannot do. So the immutable objects can be initialized when it is allocated. So here NSString we can do the value creations whenever the memory allocation is done. Later, if you want to do any modification in the specific string, then we cannot do that. So it doesn't allow. For every modification, it creates a new memory allocation. It returns a new string. There is a string like text. This is my one string. I want to add as a book to text. I would like to make this. So the text is in one memory location. I created another memory location for textbook. I have to create another location for textbook. I cannot reuse this memory location which is allocated already. So if it is ns strings, because these are immutable. Whenever it is initialized at the time of memory allocation, whatever the value you want to store in that memory, so we can store it. If you would like to change the values in the same memory location, it doesn't allow. It will create a new memory location with the new changes. If I want to replace one character, for example, e e e c, for example, if something was there, I can use like if I want to replace the t with e, so I can do. So this will create a new memory allocation. So it won't do the same modification within the same memory. For each change or whatever you would like to do any operation on a string, then it will be. Since this class is an string, we can define any reference objects for strings by following the same notation. Here all the strings will be represented in double quotes. Here your text comes. So here this is your symbolic representation. This one is a bit different, but this you can use. I don't see there is some difference. So this is the brackets. So this is the way of string declarations. Now there is a memory allocation is allocated with ASDF to string. So I want to change something as a textbook of this. I have to create another string for it. I can do that directly in the second line, but it creates another memory location for textbook. It won't reuse the memory location which is allocated for str. It creates another memory location. The reference for str to this memory location will be disconnected, and the str now points to this memory location. Because since it is an immutable object, for every change it's go for new memory location. So we have a different methods. I want to count the number of characters in finding length of string. Find length of a string. That can be done by using a length method. Here length is a method which returns you one integer value of string length. Here str length. It gives the length, the total number of characters of a string, including spaces and any other special characters inside of it. Returns on it total characters. Similarly, there are certain methods you can use like substring, getting a substring from the one string to creating a substrings, and like the appending strings, separating strings with specific components. There we can do there are certain operations we can do. The basic feature of a string is like this. You can get a length, you can get a specific character of a string, by using it index. We know the length, so I would like to access the index, the character at index 2. I can receive it here my second index of the character. So my second index is x. The x will be stored in ch2. I can get it. Use length method, length of a string. So since we are having so this is with nesting. So we have more methods, then I can tell you that. But the basic usage of nesting is this one. I want to append two strings as a third string. Again, if I use the nesting, it appends these two strings. It gives you textbook as a new string. If I want to append these two strings, it will give you a new object with new memory allocation because it is immutable. If I want to replace, or if I want to do some operations on the strings, every operation on a string will returns you a new memory allocation, like string appending or string reverse or string length or string concatenations or replacing a characters with a different character. Or so these all the operations of a string, it returns you a new memory allocation with new values. There is another object is there for strings, that is mutable object, that's called ns mutable string. So you can create a mutable string. There are different ways of memory allocation. Allocated. Now there are certain methods which allows the memory change within the append string. I can append a string to another string. Text. For example, now I would like to append another string, book. If I print str mutable, I will get a string textbook. These two will be stored in same memory location. Because it is a mutable string, whenever you append a new object, it increments, like it enhances the memory blocks and it will store that object. It append these two. If I want to replace, and it will do the same operation and it keeps the values in the same memory location. It won't create the multiple memory locations. Every time it always maintains the same memory location, it will get extended. The memory size will get extended in mutable strings. For immutable strings, it won't allow changes. It provides you the fixed values and returns the values as it is, which is there in that memory location. This is like a basic difference for mutable objects and immutable objects. Since still we have more methods in strings and converting lowercase and uppercase, there are certain methods, uppercase strings and lowercase strings.
Suresh,
Yeah.
hello.
Yes.
Actually, I'm trying to calculate, trying to use the length function.
Yeah.
So I just declare ns star abc is equal to text,
Okay.
and I'm just ns number l is equal to square bracket ABC length.
Let's see.
So actually it's giving me,
NS number is different.
so what should I use?
NS number is a different class, right? So NS string is the class. Now you can see here, no problem. So now we have str obj one of the string object. This is empty string. I'm giving empty string. Now it is welcome. If I print uppercase string, it prints welcome in uppercase. If I make it lowercase, it returns the string as a lowercase. Can you see in output?
Yeah.
Okay. Capitalized string, it makes the first character as a capital. Length, it returns the length. Have you got the length here? Now I'm calculating, making the comparison, equal comparison. Both strings are equal strings or not. Equal strings in terms, not in terms of length, in terms of characters and length. The same characters in same sequence. String strobj is having a welcome in capital letters, but I'm making the comparison with small letters. It said like it's very case sensitive. Has prefix? Well, yes, it started with prefix. Can we compare these two strings? Both are equal or not? The comparison. It says like both are equal strings. Compare strobj. Because here C is the capital. Here strobj is small letters and I'm comparing to small letter. The comparison result is 0 in the sense both are succeeded in the same objects. The objects is having same values. It refers to the same memory. I would like to get a substring from string to index up to 1. Whatever the characters are there, there are two characters 0 and 1. It returns two characters. Substring to index. What is this 2 index? W 0 1 up to the 2, it's given that 1. And substring from index 1 from 1 to rest. I will get from 1 to rest. I'll give you that substring with range. So from the location to number of characters, 4 characters. It returns the 4 character string. So I would like to get an access a character. So I can get the character. So to index is sense it gives the value up to that index. It won't include that index. From index means it starts from the same index, returns the rest of the values. String with format. This is like creating integer value to string. So I can use the method called NSString string with format. So I can create a string object with a string with format class method. I can convert one data type to another data type. This is my integer data type. I can use %i or %d. So you can use the same uh, characters, like how you convert a one data type to string in C language. We can use the same. So here repeatedly we can symbolize with %d to %i. %@ represents always objects. This is my object. I want to print one object as a string, then I have to use %@ formatter. %c for character, %@ for objects, %i for integers, %d for integers, %l for long, %f for float, %li for long integers. So I want to convert one string object to int value. So I can use int value as it is. How you use the NS number, you can use the same. I would like to calculate a size of a string with a font. If it is 10th font, what will be the height or width of a specific string, number of characters. I can get a height and width of a string based on the size of the font and name of the font. So I can convert one objective C strings to a constant characters of C strings, character points, with the using of UTF-8 string. String by replacing character occurrence of a string. If there is a value stored in strobj, I am replacing occurrence of that value E with R. then it will replace the E everywhere by R, and it creates a new memory location and it stores that value. That is the value. This is the new one. This strobc is having a old one. This is having a new one with new memory location. As I said, every operation on NS string, if it returns some another object, then it creates a new memory location. So this is the way of writing some content of a string to direct file. I will tell you that what is NS bundle and all, but this is the way write to file. Like this is the way of creating a mutable objects. I created a mutable object. I'm appending a string. If I want to trim the characters at end or prefix or suffix, if any string is having empty spaces, either prefix or a suffix, then we can remove those empty strings from a string by using a method string by trimming characters in set. This is the method to trim this empty spaces in bit, like as a prefix and suffix we can remove. So I will tell you that what is character set is nothing but set of characters. I am saying that white spaces and character set. So is there any white spaces? This is one set object collection object which contains only white spaces. I am passing this white spaces comparison for this string. If this string object contains any white spaces, please trim it. Then it trims that, it creates a new string and returns to this. Because string by trim characters in set, it's a method of NS string. So NS mutable string is a subclass for NS string. The append string is a direct method which is written on NS mutable string, so we can use directly. So it appends the welcome with spaces to empty string of strings. So I would like to insert some string at a specific index, so I can insert India after at 3 indexes. So 0, 1, 2. Here I can see the like it will be most probably there is something, but we'll get the same string here. It inserts the value. I need some immutable access here. I have to use this you cannot assign length directly to NS number. you cannot directly use this